Hello friends, my name is Baji. Welcome to our channel. This is episode number 3 in our performance testing must-have skill series. In this video, we will discuss SDLC concepts. If you are watching this series for the first time, please watch the module 1 videos first and then continue these concepts. You can find the link to module 1 videos in the description. Let's start with the topics covered in this video. First, we will discuss the SDLC concepts with some real-time examples, and then we will discuss the benefits the team will obtain by following the SDLC. Next, we will discuss the different SDLC phases that IT companies will follow. Finally, we will end this video with different SDLC models. So without any further delay, let's jump into it. So what is SDLC? Before discussing anything further, let's look at a real-time example. These days, everyone is using smartphones, right? Do you know how those smartphones are actually made? Let's find out. First, there will be a meeting with the company board of directors. In that meeting, they will discuss the idea and various options available in the market. Once it is approved, then the idea will be passed to the research and development lab. The research team will prepare a prototype, which is nothing but a preliminary model, and obtain the feedback from their company management and different teams. If any changes need to be made, they will incorporate it accordingly. Once the final approval is received from the higher officials, then the product will be passed to the next stage, which is software installation. In this stage, the software team will install the operating system and other required applications. After installing the software and the application, it is checked here by many experts for the system to be working according to the expectations. Before the actual production, the handset will be passed to the next stage, which is testing. In this stage, the handset will be thoroughly tested for quality, performance and other parameters. Both hardware and software aspects will be tested to ensure that handset is working as per the expectations. Once the teams are satisfied with the handset, it will be sent to the next stage, which is mass production. In this stage, they will start working on the mass production activities. First, they will check for the internal components. So, the internal components of the handset may be manufactured or sometimes outsourced. So, the company will announce the release date to the public. Once they have the internal components, teams will assemble these parts and get them ready for the next stage, which is packaging. So, in this packaging stage, the handset along with the accessories and user manuals are put into the box and ready to be shipped. So, for building a smartphone, the companies will follow a systematic approach to ensure that they have better product delivered to the customers. If they don't follow all these phases, then they cannot guarantee the quality and performance of the product, isn't it? Now let's look at how the softwares are made by tech companies. Here as well, first they will gather the requirements from client and come up with proper plan to develop the software. Next, they will design user interfaces, layouts and other aspects of the software. And then they will start coding the requirements with the agreed softwares like Java, Python, C++, etc. And then they will conduct all the functional and non-functional testings to ensure that the software is working as per the expectations. Once they have the approval from the higher management, the software will be deployed in the production so that the customers will start using the software. Again, here as well, companies followed the systematic step-by-step process to ensure that the delivery of quality software. I hope you understood these examples. Now let's look at what SDLC is. Here SDLC stands for Software Development Lifecycle. Basically, it is a process that produces the software with the highest quality and lowest cost in the shortest time possible. It also provides a well-structured flow of phases that help an organization quickly produce high-quality software which is well tested and ready for production use. Please feel free to mention it in the comment section in case anything is not clear till this point. Now let's look at different benefits of SDLC. After hearing all these concepts, can you guess any benefits with the SDLC process? SDLC process will reduce the development and production costs as the requirements will be properly defined and finalized. It will also reduce the software development risk as the developers have clear guidelines to develop the software. Since thorough testing happens in this process, the software quality will be increased. As the quality product is delivered to the customer, it will also increase their satisfaction. Now let's look at different phases of SDLC. In general, there are 7 stages or phases of SDLC: planning, requirement analysis, design, implementation, testing, deploy, and maintenance. Now let's explore each phase in detail. For better understanding, we will learn these phases with real-time example. Let's say a customer has a business idea of the e-commerce application and also required money to get started. So first thing what he will do is he will try to reach out different tech companies, and then he will have some initial discussions and finalize the right company for his budget and the requirement. Now let's apply the SDLC phases and understand this application deployment process. First, we will start with the planning phase. In companies, we will have product owners who generally have the initial requirement discussion discussions with the clients. So in our e-commerce application example, the customer will meet the company product owner and outline all his requirements. Let's assume his requirements are like user registration for new customers, login to the existing customers, logout feature for the existing customers, search feature to allow the customer to search different products in the application, cart operations feature like adding or removing the items from the cart, and then checkout feature. These are just few, but in real time, multiple discussions will happen between the teams to finalize the requirements. In that process, they may add new features or requirements. Once the requirements are finalized, the product owner will take those requirements and move on with the next phase, which is requirement analysis phase. In this phase, all the teams like operation team, development team, testing team, along with product owner will meet and define each requirement further. Let's look at the detailed requirements of each outlined features. We will start with user registration first. Let's say in the registration form, we should have first name input field and last name input field to allow the user to type the first and last name. Along with that, it should also have username and password fields for the customer to create their own username and password. It should also show the terms and conditions and give a checkbox for the user to accept them. And then a submit button should also be available in the form for the user to submit his user registration request. Upon submission, the application should store all the information. Now let's look at the login feature. In the login feature as well, the application should allow the user to type his username and password. So it should have the respective input fields. Here as well, a submit button should be available for the user to click after filling the information. Once the user clicks the submit button, the application should verify the details with the stored information. If the details are matching, it should redirect the user to the home page. Otherwise, it should give an error message like invalid credentials. Now let's look at logout feature. Here, the application should have a logout button on the home page. After clicking the logout button, the application should clear the session and redirect the user to the login page. Next, let's discuss the search feature. Here, the application should have a search field where the user types his search item. After the user searches, the application should retrieve all the similar items from the application. The application should have a clear option to clear the existing search. Now let's look at the cart operations feature. Here, the application should allow the user to add an item to the cart and also remove it from the cart. So it should provide buttons to carry out these operations. It should also give a return to homepage button in order for the user to return to the homepage. Finally, let's discuss the checkout feature. After finalizing the item and adding it to the cart, the application should allow the user to check out his item. So it should provide a checkout button. So once the user clicks on the checkout button, it should redirect the user to the payment site. Thereafter, the application should validate all the payment details and create the order. I have tried to explain the details at a high level, but in real time, the teams will define the granular requirements of these features. Once the requirements have been defined and analyzed, the product owner will create the necessary tasks for the respective teams for tracking purpose so that he will understand the status of the respective tasks. From here, they will move on to the next phase, which is the design phase. The design phase will take all the defined requirements and start the next steps. Here, the teams will create the business requirements and also the user interface layouts and decide the programming languages and frameworks to use and design the server architecture and application architecture and decide the compatibility aspects and also the browser aspects of the application and much more. Next, they will move on to the next phase, which is implementation. Here, different teams work together to complete the implementation activities. First, the operation team will set up the physical hardware for the servers. Then the development team will start writing the code for the outlined features. Then the testers will start analyzing the requirements and start building the test plan and test cases for the features. So it is a good practice that testers should start their planning activities in the implementation phase itself. This way, if they find any fundamental flaws or usability issues in the application, they can report it back to the development and business teams so that they can save their time and effort. Once the code is ready, then they will move to the next phase, which is testing. At this point of time, the environment is ready and developers also completed their coding activities, so they will deploy the application in the testing environment. Then the testing team will start the functional and non-functional testing activities. They will make sure all the outlined requirements are met and all the functionalities are working as expected. They will also try to find as many issues as possible, like user interface issues, logical issues, and critical issues. For example, the user was not able to complete the registration after filling all the details. Another example could be after giving the right username and password combination, the application is not allowing the user to log in. Once the issues have been identified, it will be assigned to the developer. In general, these things will be tracked using defect management tool like Jira. Then the developer will fix those issues and assign them back to the testers for retest. So this process will continue until the testing phases exit criteria are met or the application is stable. After testing activities are completed, the testing team will review the results with the project team. After reviewing, they will provide a sign-off for the deployment, which is our next phase. So in this deployment phase, the operation teams mirror the the testing environment that has been tested and get them ready for production. That means they will install the new hardware and make sure that it is scalable for production expectations. In other words, they will set up all the required links and ensure all the connectivities are working as expected. Once all the tasks have been completed, the application will be released to the customers. Once the deployment phase is completed, the next phase, which is maintenance, will be started. In the maintenance phase, the production support team will monitor the health of the application or the servers. They will make sure that the application or the servers are healthy all the time. They will also try to complete all the patching activities like version upgrades as needed. Sometimes the customers may also find the bugs in the application and will report them to the customer support teams. Then the customer support team will talk to the development team and assign those bugs to them. So the developers will investigate the root cause and then they will try to provide the fix. In addition to that, the operation teams may need to release the new features to support the customer needs. These things like fixing the bugs or providing the new features will be deployed again and again to the production environments during the maintenance period. Since these things will regularly happen, so the dedicated operation team should take care of all these tasks to ensure that the application is stable and there is no impact on the customers. I hope you understood the different phases of SDLC and the different activities that teams will carry out in each phase. Now let's quickly recap the different phases of SDLC. So we have 7 different phases. The first one is the planning phase. In this phase, the customer will share the requirements with the product owner. And then in the requirement analysis phase, the product owner will discuss with the different teams and outline all the detailed requirements. And in the design phase, the team will design the user interfaces, layouts, and decide the programming languages to use or compatibility, browser aspects, etc. Next, in the implementation phase, the operation team will build the environment and developers will start writing the code. Along with that, the testers will also start their planning activities. In the testing phase, actual functional and non-functional testings will happen. In case if they find any issues, they will assign it to the developers and developers will fix them for retest. Once the issues have been retested, they will move on to the next phase, which is deployment. In this phase, the application will be deployed into the production environment. And then in the final maintenance phase, the application and infrastructure will be maintained healthy. If anything is not clear so far, please don't hesitate to mention it in the comment section. Now let's look at different SDLC models. There are many ways to implement SDLC in the project. For our discussion's purpose, I have considered commonly used 4 models. They are waterfall model, spiral model, V model, and agile model. Among these models, agile is highly implemented in many organizations. All these models have different approaches, but basic phases and activities remain the same. So let's start the discussion with the waterfall model. It is also referred as the linear model. In this model, the outcome of one phase is the input for the next phase. So the next phase only starts when the previous one is ended. In this model, at first the requirement analysis will be done. Once the requirement finalized, a software requirement specification document will be created. This is also referred as SRS document. This will act as input for the next phase. In the system design phase, server and application architecture documents and design documents will be prepared. These will act as the input for the implementation phase. So in the implementation phase, actual coding will happen. Once the coding is done, the application will be deployed in the testing or staging environment and the next phase will begin. So in the testing phase, all the functional and non-functional testing activities will happen. Once the exit criteria of these testing activities are met, the next phase will begin. So in the deployment phase, the application will be deployed in the production environment. Any issues or new feature enhancements comes under the maintenance phase. So now let's look at some of the advantages of the waterfall model. For every model, there are many advantages and disadvantages, but I will mention the main ones here. So for waterfall model, it is a simple model with clearly defined phases and goals. These phases can be easily understood and executed sequentially one after another. So in this type of model, the requirements will be frozen in the initial phases itself. So we can expect fewer issues in the implementation and testing phases. This type of model is well suited for small software development projects. Now let's look at the disadvantages. Since the requirements are finalized in the initial stages, there will be little or no room for any changes. Any critical changes may impact the overall timelines and cost of the project. This model is time consuming and cannot be used for the short duration projects. Therefore, there is a longer delivery time for the final product. Since the final product will be released at the end of the project, it is not possible to obtain any feedback until the end of this project. Next, let's discuss the spiral model along with its advantages and disadvantages. Spiral model follows the phases in the iterations. It basically combines the iterative model approach with smaller repeated cycles. In the iterative model, the software development begins with small subset of requirements. They will enhance the versions over time until the complete software is ready for production. So in the spiral model, the software will be released after each cycle, and it will be used as a base for the next cycle. This model can be divided into 4 phases: planning, risk analysis, development and test, evaluation and review. In the planning phase, all the requirements will be gathered from the customer. SRS document will also be created. In the next phase, which is risk analysis, the team will do analysis and identify all the necessary risks for this project. Once the risk analysis is done, the development and testing phase will begin. Once the product is developed and tested thoroughly, the next phase will begin. In this phase, the customer will review or evaluate the product. Once the evaluation is done, then the next iteration will begin. Now let's look at some of the advantages. As the development will plan in different cycles with small set of requirements, the initial product can be delivered fast in comparison with the waterfall model. This model takes the new requirements which will be incorporated in the next cycle. This type of model is suitable for large and complex projects where they expect frequent requirement changes. Now let's look at some of the disadvantages. In this model, as different cycles will be executed, it will be difficult to manage these cycles at times. It will also be difficult to determine end of the overall project at the early stages, as the development activities will happen in different cycles. This type of model may be expensive for small projects with a limited budget and scope. Next, we will discuss V model and its advantages and disadvantages. V model is also known as the verification and validation model. This is an extension of the waterfall model where the execution process flows in a V shape. In this model, the development and testing activities will happen parallelly. Each development phase has a corresponding testing phase. So V model and waterfall model are the same, except the test planning and testing start at an early stage in V model. Basically, this model can be divided into 2 phases: verification phase and validation phase. In the verification phase, the requirement analysis, system design, high and low level design activities will be carried out. So in these phases, the static technique testing will be carried out. That means all the documents will be tested in the form of reviews or walkthrough. Then the developer will start coding all the features of the application. In the validation phase, all the testing activities will be performed. These activities will be used with the dynamic testing technique. That means testing the actual code. So first, unit testing will be performed by the developer on the individual modules with the test cases designed in the low level design phase. And then in the integration testing phase, multiple components will be tested together. So in the system testing phase, the entire system will be tested. Finally, user acceptance testing will be performed by the customers or business users. Now let's look at some of the advantages. This type of model is best suitable for small projects. It is simple, easy to understand and use. It is a disciplined model which helps the team deliver high quality products. All the phases in this model will be completed one at a time. Now let's look at some of the disadvantages. This type of model is not suitable for large projects. All the phases need to be completed before the final product delivery. So the customer need to wait until the end of all the phases. This type of model does not support the iteration of phases. All the requirements will be finalized in the early stage and implementation activities will be planned accordingly. So there are no phases for the subset of requirements. Now let's look at our final model, which is the agile model. Agile is combination of spiral and iterative model. In general, agile means the ability to move quickly and easily. In agile, the software product will be broken into different builds. Unlike the waterfall model, the software will not be developed in one go. Each build increments in terms of features. The next build will be built on top of previous features. In agile, the iterations are named as sprint, and each sprint lasts 2 to 4 weeks. At the end of each sprint, the product owner will validate, and upon his approval, it will be delivered to the customer. In this model, the customer feedback will be taken on the delivered product, and any enhancements will be considered in the next sprint. In this model as well, each sprint will have different phases like plan, design, develop, test, deploy, and review. All these phases will be targeted against a specific build. Now let's look at different advantages of this model. This model is a realistic approach to the software development as it allows more flexibility to adapt the changes. It promotes teamwork and cross-trainings. At the end of the sprint, teams will generally schedule knowledge sharing sessions with other members in that sprint. In this model, regular updates will be provided as the product will be delivered in smaller units and feedback will be incorporated. This will increase the satisfaction of the customer. Now let's look at some of the disadvantages. In the agile methodologies, team will not have similar documentation process like water methodologies. It will be difficult to estimate overall project effort in the beginning as the product development will be divided into different sprints and each sprint scope may change based on the customer feedback. In addition to that, over-reliance on customer feedback could lead to excessive scope changes or end the project midway. That's it for this video. With this, we have covered all the planned concepts in Module 2. Thank you so much for staying till the end and supporting me. I hope you understood all the concepts in this Module 2 video. In case any specific concept is not clear or require more detailed information, please feel free to mention it in the comment section. Your feedback will definitely help me to deliver quality content in our channel. If you are new to our channel, please consider subscribing and also like and share this video so that others will also get benefited. I will see you in our Module 3 video. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep learning.